They have had two players traded in, Mohammed Shami and Arjun Tendulkar. And among the notable releases, as you see on your screen, Bishnoi, Miller, Akash, Deep, Shamar, Joseph. Matt, lowdown on Lucknow.
Yeah, I sort of imagine they'll go with the three overseas batters again in Marsh, Markram, and Puran. But then I think they've got to sign an overseas bowler, at least one, maybe two. I think the balance is an interesting question for Lucknow because of the fact that they don't have many bowlers who bat and don't have many batters who bowl. So whether or not, does that mean that someone like Shahbaz Ahmed gets game time because of the fact he can add a bit of, a little bit with the bat and a little bit with the ball. But also, maybe they'll see that as a possibility where they can target an all-rounder in the auction. I think they actually have, I would say, a surprisingly big purse given how many players they seem to have kept hold of. But I think those three notable releases, I suppose, in Akash Deep, David Miller and Ravi Bishnoi has freed up a lot of funds. So I think they probably do have the cash to go hard for an overseas all-rounder, whether that's, I don't think they'll have the money to get Cam Green unless they sacrifice pretty much everything else. But maybe they could go for a Russell, maybe on the slightly cheaper option or the spin bowling option. They could try for a Maxwell or a Livingston or someone like that. But yeah, I think the balance is the key question.
I also think this is the team that may go for Venkatesh Iyer because they have Ayush Badoni and Abdul Samad there who did okay last season, but they may be looking at an upgrade there also, just to have, although they have Puran and Pant at number 3 and 4, so they don't exactly need more lefties. But since they've released Miller, maybe Venkatesh Iyer, I wouldn't be surprised if they bid for Venkatesh
Iyer. They just need a lot of bowling, I think, from the overseas contingent point, because that 4 batters is not a good balance. And Tom Moody, we know him well enough now. He's allowed us the pleasure of knowing him over all these years on our analysis couch. And the ideal balance, when you've got Marsh, Markram and Puran locked in there, and Mitch Marsh can bowl, that's handy because that's not always been the case. But I think Willow Roque is a player who did well for them last year, and I don't see him on the retained list. So they might look for. I don't know if he could have been retained. So they might very well bring in players like that and try and get a battery of overseas fast bowlers to try and balance things out, because there will remain questions on Mayank, Mohsin and Shami. No matter how optimistic things look now or even in Jan or in March, that team has learned with a very bitter pill last year. They have to have contingencies. So they have to get a lot of bowling with that money. So I don't see them taking that 22 and getting more batting. They're going to expect Pant to do the business this year. They're going to expect their overseas players who form the core of their batting. The bigger holes to fill are backups for their bowling. They need to spend that money there.
Just to throw a couple of possible names out for overseas fast bowlers, I think Spencer Johnson could be one that they might go for. I know Moody's had him at Oval Invincibles in the 100 before. Berendorf, another name who fits into a very similar category, just as someone who's got a lot of experience. So I think those two will be ones to keep an eye on. Maybe even a Matt Henry, who had a bit of a time with Lucknow a couple of seasons ago, and I was pretty surprised he wasn't involved in the IPL at all last year. So I think that's the sort of caliber of fast bowler they'll be looking for, someone who they feel they can plug in and play as and when they need to.